Have you ever noticed how, when playing a game, our brains aren't following the rules of reality, but instead have substituted them with special rules and meanings that only exist within the game? Games are capable of creating a special space, set apart from reality, within which play is ritualistically conjured. This special space happens to have a name, and it is known as the Magic Circle. The Magic Circle is a concept that describes how meaning is altered while a game is being played, to construct a boundary between the real world and the game world. To understand how this happens, picture a chess set. Two people could be in a room with this chess set, and if they aren't playing the game, it doesn't really matter how the board is arranged, because outside of the game, the pieces have no meaning. Now imagine that our theoretical duo decides to play a game of chess. Once the game begins, everything changes. Suddenly, time and space are split into distinct chunks. It matters where a piece is planted on the board, and who has the ability to move a piece at any given moment. This piece isn't just a wooden horse anymore. Now it is a knight, and its position on the board means that I have put my opponent's king in check. The relationship between the people also changes. Where before they were friends, now they are enemies locked into a mortal duel. What happened here? Well, the players entered the Magic Circle. The Magic Circle highlights the fact that all games, on some level, are artificial constructs. Even games that take place entirely within the real world follow a special set of rules that define how the game works. In a game of tag, participants are either it or not it. The itness of any particular person is not determined by any of their natural traits. Instead, the process of deciding who is it is defined within the rules of the game, which were created by people to craft a specific experience. All of the meaning that a game can create exists within this artificial state. This artificiality reveals some odd properties that games possess. One such property is the absurdity of games. To demonstrate this, picture a 200-meter foot race. Each runner is trying to get from point A to point B before all of the other runners. At first, this situation seems completely natural, but a closer examination reveals the absurdity of track races. If the runner's goal is to get from point A to point B before everyone else, running all the way around the track is a really dumb strategy, because the runner could simply cut across the field and absolutely crush all the losers who took the long way around. Of course, we all know that this isn't what actual track runners do. In reality, all of the runners agreed before the race that they would make it harder to achieve their goal by requiring each participant to stay on the track. The willingness to overcome unnecessary obstacles in search of an end is the essence of the Magic Circle, and it can be found in any game. Why do I die in one hit in Hotline Miami? Why do I lose all of my progress every time I die in Spelunky? Why do I need power moons to move to the next kingdom? The answer to all of these questions is quite simple. The designer decided that those were the rules, and in order to play the game, you need to accept the social contract presented by the designer. You might think that these video game examples are fundamentally different than the non-digital games I have mentioned so far. After all, these are video games, and the player has no other choice but to follow the rules created by the designer. However, the ability of the game to enforce its Magic Circle does not mean that the players don't adopt the social contract. Both digital and non-digital games are designed with the assumption that players will follow the rules, regardless of their ability to enforce them. After all, if you win a match of golf by picking up your ball and placing it directly into the hole, are you really playing golf at that point? The only difference between a digital and non-digital game is that in a physical game, the social contract is enforced by players, and in a video game, the social contract is enforced by computers and players. Accepting a game's social contract to enter the magic circle is called adopting a illusory attitude. If players don't adopt it, they will be unable to fully enter a game's magic circle and experience the meaning contained within. The magic circle isn't purely created by developers. What I mean by this is that the creation of the circle is a collaborative process between the developers and the players. Sure, the designer creates the formal rules that the players follow, but these rules don't exist in a vacuum. Human beings interact with those rules, often in unpredictable ways. Individual games can be viewed as fully developed cultures, with their own cultural norms and values that have developed over the game's lifespan. As players spend time within the magic circle, they learn the language of the game, including the meanings of all of its mechanics. In Team Fortress 2, when playing as the engineer, the player can build a sentry almost anywhere. But eventually they will realize that positioning a sentry so that it can protect an important map objective is generally a good idea. Over time, players will become familiar with the sentry spots commonly used by engineers, just like how people become familiar with common sayings and phrases used when speaking a foreign language. Extending this linguistic comparison even further, players can develop their own mechanical dialects. Sticking with Team Fortress 2, you could adopt a more chaotic engineer playstyle by building in weird, suboptimal places to catch players off guard. An even weirder variant of this is the Sentry Jumper, who uses a specific loadout that effectively lets the player rocket jump with their sentry gun to build in a place that is normally inaccessible to the engineer. Each of these playstyles could be considered a mechanical dialect, since the players are using the same core mechanics in extremely different ways. Just like how people can use the same words to express vastly different things. The language of the magic circle is also cultural. When a Team Fortress 2 player sees a heavy crouching in the corner passing out sandwiches to both teams, they will probably recognize that this is called a hoovie, and that it is one of the most popular Team Fortress 2 memes. Hoovies and the engineer playstyles I mentioned earlier are both examples of artifacts created within Team Fortress 2's Magic Circle by player interaction with the core mechanics and emergent social structures found within the game. So far, we have only discussed games as if they only have one magic circle. However, you could argue that games have multiple. These additional circles are created when games are played in different places, by different people, following different social contracts. Compare the meanings created in the magic circle of a casual game of Smash Bros. To that of a competitive Smash tournament. In one circle, players play with items enabled and are allowed to choose any stage or character that they want. On the other hand, competitive Smash players use more complex map selection rules. Some characters might be banned, items will be disabled, and the game will only pause in the case of an emergency. Each circle has its own unique set of meanings, jokes, and values, and these meanings are constantly being defined and redefined through the negotiation and interaction of players within the Magic Circle. These cultural values can be wildly diverse even within a single game, and they might even conflict with the other values held by other circles. The 1v1 no items Fox only final destination meme is only one example of a meme created by the meanings of more casual circles to poke fun at the tryhard circle. Games, and by extension the Magic Circle, can be viewed as open systems of meaning. According to systems theory, an open system is one that has external interactions. In other words, games exist within a larger cultural context, and they are influenced by and affect that culture. Consider how different the experience of playing Shovel Knight will be for different people. One player might be a platformer veteran who has conquered countless platformers. Another might have grown up playing NES classics like Mega Man. Another might be a reviewer seeking to appraise the game as a product, and another might be a critic seeking to analyze the game as a work of art. Each of these players will have a very different experience with Shovel Knight, even though they are all interacting with the exact same game. Each player uses their previous understanding of the world to enter a magic circle of their own creation. Some players will have an easier time accepting the arbitrary obstacles found within Shovel Knight because of their previous experiences. Once inside the magic circle, the previous experiences of the players still matter. For example, my experience playing Wargroove, a turn-based strategy game, will be altered because I grew up playing in local competitive chess tournaments. Because of this, I developed a set of heuristics for chess, and I have found that they are generally applicable in many other turn-based strategy games. For instance, I understand that sacrificing a less valuable unit in order to eliminate a more valuable unit is generally a good move. However, not everyone grew up playing strategy games, so it might take some people longer to figure things like this out. I will be able to learn Wargroove faster because I brought a more refined toolset than that of an inexperienced player. And there are players out there who will have an easier time than me because they are bringing an even more refined toolset than I have. Games have the ability to reach beyond their magic circle and affect the culture around them. As Nietzsche said, if you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. In a similar way, if you gaze long into the magic circle also gazes into you. When you have a world that can create truly meaningful play, that meaning is bound to have an impact on the player. While the actual lived experiences cannot leave the magic circle, what can leave are the stories and morals taught through play. No other medium can generate meaning in the same way that games can. Books and movies might immerse people in their worlds, but they cannot get people to learn a new mechanical and cultural language with which they use to communicate with others within a formal system. And that's what makes games such a powerful medium. The power of games as an artistic medium is the power of the magic circle. I hope you have enjoyed this video. The magic circle is one of those core concepts that I don't feel enough people talk about, so I'm glad to finally give this topic the attention it deserves. If you want to learn more about the magic circle and many other game design concepts, I would recommend reading Rules of Play by Katie Salen and Eric Zimmerman. I've mentioned this book in a few other videos, but I feel that anyone who is serious about learning the inner workings of games should definitely read this book. Feel free to share, like, subscribe, or throw a few dollars my way on Patreon. This has been Chariot Rider. Have a good day.